Hi, let's continue with what is actually the second topic of this course, and the topic is function composition. Okay, function composition relies on something very simple principle, which is just the basic idea of what a function is. We could say that a function is just I'll draw here a couple of sets, x and y, and we could say that a function is just a way of mapping a input to an output like this. If you input, for example, for f of x, I don't know, let's say a 5, you will get as a result, inputting a 5 here in f of x, you will get as a result a number 8, which is what's going to map us here like this. Okay, so that's the very basic idea of what we're going to do now, but we're going to do it a bit differently. I'm going to start directly with an example, which is, I think, the best way to move along with this idea of function composition. So I'm going to start with something like this. I'm going to say f of x. I'm going to say here f of g of 2, like this. So here, what's basically different is that instead of just inputting a value directly to f, we're going to input what is the value of g of 2. So the idea to move forward from here is just answer a question. The question is, what is g of 2? I'm going to do that in here. I'm going to solve it in here. So g of 2 will be just the same as 2 times 2, and g of 2 would be equal to 4. So this 4 is now what we are actually going to input in f here. So we could say it this way: 4 plus 3, and this would be equal to 7. So I'm just going to copy here the original statement, this one here, f of g of 2. I'm going to place it in here where it's supposed to be, here, like this. So that's what we basically did. I mean, f of g of 2 would be equal to 7. Now I'm going to do another example just to clear this out a bit, maybe more. Let's say now we're going to do g of, let's say, f of 1. Now here we have to do basically the same thing. We have to ask ourselves, what is f of 1? And that's what I'm going to do. We're going to do here. F of 1 will be equal to 1 plus 3. So f of 1 will be equal to 4, and that is actually what we're going to input back in G, like this here. I'm going to use here like this, G of 4. So G of 4 will be 2 times 4, that will be equal to 8. So in other words, I'm going to copy it here. G of f of 1 is equal to 8. Now, I think this pretty good couple examples just for for starting up. Now let's move to something just a bit different. There is, of course, we can input to a value the value for the function, but there is another thing we can do here. I'm going to write it first. It will be something like this: h of f of x. Now notice something here. I'm not placing here a value. I'm placing here the function of f of x. So in other words, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to substitute for every x of h. I'm going to substitute what is actually f of x. It will be something like this. Something like this here. Now I'm going to write here first f of x just to make it clear what I'm doing. Feel free to skip this step perhaps. I'm going to just do it in order to make it clear what I'm doing here. So I'm just going to place now what is f of x. F of x is x plus 3 in here and as well in here. Now what we have to do here is just solve this out. It will be x plus 3 squared will be x squared plus 6 times x plus 9 plus x plus 3. And we have to simplify this out. It will be x squared plus 7 times x plus 12. And with that, we will be basically done with this solving out what is actually h of f of x. Now, here's the thing. So what we just did here is just getting into the basics of what function composition is. We start from the same idea what a function is. What we talk here is a function is just a way of mapping an input to an output. But in this case of function composition, there are basically two kind of operations we can do. I'm going to write it in here. So the first one would be we input values to another function, or we input functions to another function. These are just basically the two things we're going to do with function composition, and later on we see how to apply this to real life. But for this first video, that would be basically the idea. So let's move forward to a bit more, some more interesting examples. Okay, let's move forward.